Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting of the West Dallas West Milwaukee School Board to order. Mr. Verbos, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. And Sarah, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Lee,
Here.
Mr. Becker,
Here.
Ms. Kaiser,
Here.
Mr. Keller,
Here.
Ms. Deal,
Here.
Ms. Carr,
Here.
Mr. Verbos,
Here.
Ms. Lee,
Here.
President Burns.
Thank you. Proper notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the open meeting laws of the state of Wisconsin. Are there any modifications to the agenda tonight?
There are no modifications.
Okay, then at this time, I will entertain a motion.
Move to approve the agenda.
Second.
All right. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, that is accepted. So then that'll move us right into our Irving Elementary Student Showcase. Is everyone ready to go? Absolutely. All right, go ahead and take it away. Just make sure that as you're going, the button in the front is pushed so that your mic is green.
All right. Hello, everyone. We are excited to highlight some effective ways that we are providing layers of support for all students to be able to achieve the goals that are in our theory of action. And if you look at the bottom portion, specific to our joint federal notification, we really had a stronger focus on continuous improvement with student outcomes for our students with disabilities. And I'm excited to say that I think as a testament to the work that we are doing next year for the 26-27 school year, we will no longer have that JFN. So we're excited about that. So to bring this work to life today, you're going to hear from members of this team who are implementing these supports in meaningful ways. We have Aurora Lamecca, who's on the side. She is a general education first grade teacher. And we have Samantha Gerasi, who is an intensive services special education teacher. And the two of them are going to show their co-teaching model to you and talk a little bit about what they're doing, highlighting that work in action. So you're going to see some videos and some pictures, and obviously we'll have an opportunity to ask questions at the end. Additionally, on our other side, we've got our MLL specialist, and that is multilingual learner specialist. Say that 5 times fast. And it's Sarah Motz, and she was recently featured in one of our Faces segments. Sarah truly plays a critical role in providing layered supports for students who are developing their English proficiency. So she is going to share what that looks like with 2 of our kindergarten students in a little small group setting after we talk about our first grade. And Sarah also partners with another first grade teacher who's in the audience, Anna Eisensee, where they do a lot of co-planning and co-teaching as well. And we just thought it was really important to share these layers of support because that is what it takes in order to get all students to access Tier 1 instruction and to meet those goals. So I'll let you guys take it away. Turn this off.
Okay, so how do all students access Tier 1 instruction in our blended first grade classroom? So we started off the school year teaching a whole group lesson to all 24 students. We found that to be challenging for students as it led to limited results, high frustrations, and missed opportunities for learning. We found that our students needed more checks for understanding opportunities in smaller groups.
So to start it off, we met weekly as a general and special education team to intentionally plan the instruction together. So we reviewed student data, we align our Tier 1 curriculum, and we identify the specific skills that students need to develop more most. And then we're also able to anticipate potential challenges and then design targeted groups and supports in advance. So this ensures that our instruction is proactive and aligned and responsive to student needs from the start.
So our outcome, after collaborating around our student needs, our outcome was to come up with smaller or just smaller group instruction based off our Tier 1 curriculum and standards. We utilized, the concept of UDL, so all of our students are able to better access instruction in smaller group sizes. We also partnership with UWM. With that partnership and having student teachers this year, that gives us even more opportunities to do smaller group sizes as we have an intern who's able to support some of those groups.
So our collaboration is grounded in lots of different types of data, which we use to form flexible, responsive student groups. This work is rooted in our collective teacher efficacy, meaning the shared belief that when teachers work together, we can significantly impact student outcomes. And research shows that this is one of the strongest influences on student achievement. And we see that reflected in how our students' engagement and growth has come in this classroom.
Here are some pictures. So what do our groups look like? Looking specifically at math, we use our HMH into math. That's our tier 1 curriculum.
So during our daily math block, we split the class into 2 groups to make tier 1 instruction more accessible. Both groups receive tier 1 instruction from myself, but separately due to the Intermath, or separately using the Intermath on-track lesson.
The other students are then engaged in 2 separate groups of differentiated practice and work from our Into Math curriculum. Some students extend their thinking, ready for more, supported by an assistant or a student teacher, while others receive targeted support using the Almost There lesson from myself.
Then students switch so that all receive tier 1 instruction, or the on-track area, on track. This structure allows all students to access differentiated grade level content with the level of support or challenge that they need in a smaller group setting. So the visual shown is what we can see in our curriculum books and online. So we have a lot of things already planned out for us, and we use that to help inform our instruction.
Here's more of what our rotations look like, and also, oops, okay. There you go. So half the class, half the class. Here's more of what our rotations look like, an example of what we created for students to guide their transitions. Play the video.
That's for Isla. That's for Isla. Hey. I'm like a gentleman.
So on the bottom, you'll see an example of what we show the students. So you can see the intention block is our tier 1 instruction, and then the other half of the class is in the practice ring or the strategy table. So you'll see that there are 10 to 12 students in my group, and then the other half is either divided between the practice ring and the strategy, and then the entire group switches, and my large group gets divided into 2, and then they get to receive that targeted instruction we've noticed that they needed to practice.
We use the same concept for phonics as well.
I'm going to eat for this one.
Yeah, go ahead.
You won. Run. I won.
Let's do wedge. Everybody say wedge. Let's sound it out. Wedge.
C D B me from look book R what.
That's it.
So you can see the activity in the classroom. We couldn't bring 24 of the children in here to run rotations to show you that. But what we can show you is we're going to invite Ashley and Jomi up. And Mrs. Motz is going to do one of her targeted lessons.
Oh.
Okay, so first, primero nombre, okay? My name is Mrs. Motz.
My name is Ashley. My name is Joey.
Go ahead. All right, girls. So do you remember what our learning intention is? What are we learning in our group?
We're learning heart words.
Yes, we are learning the heart words. Do you remember why we're learning heart words?
Because we help them read.
Yes, the heart words will help you read. And these are words we use all the time in English. We see them in books all the time. We hear teachers say them. Knowing these words will really help you with English.
Okay.
Do you remember what are our success criteria? How will we know you can do it? Do you remember? You can
Try.
write the word.
And hear. And say the word. And hear. Listen. And draw.
And what's the last one? In your books, you can read the word. Good. Yeah, those are all the parts of language. You have to do all those things with the words. That's how we know that you can use the word and you know the word. All right, this is the word we started on Friday. Do you remember the word we started on Friday?
Yeah, is.
Is. Very good. Is. Let's practice saying that because I know that this short I sound can be tricky.
Yeah.
Let's say it. Say is.
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 Good. The I is saying it. Say it.
It.
And then the S says
Z.
z. Good. I wanted to practice that because that short I, that I is not in Spanish. So we have to practice that one extra. Okay?
Okay.
Good. When do we use the word is? Do you remember? How do we use the word is?
A color, a shape, the feels, how it's a space.
Yes, so we use the word to describe things. Usa la palabra para describir algo. We use it to describe things, to tell about the color, the shape, how things feel, the size. And we can also use the word to talk about people.
Yeah, and feelings.
We use the word to talk about feelings. And we use the word to talk about how old people are and to tell people's names.
Yeah.
Yes, very good. Okay, on Friday, we practiced reading the word and listening to the word. So today we are going to practice speaking using the word. Okay, hablar. Okay,
Okay.
so the question says, what color is it? I want you to choose one thing, una cosa, and you're going to tell me the color. Okay, and you're going to practice using that word is in your sentence. When you're ready, give me a thumbs up. Pick one thing. Are you ready, Jomi?
Yeah.
And we're going to use that word is. So you can say the
That
is, and then tell me the color. Go ahead, Jomi.
the ball is red.
Good. The ball is red. You're telling me about the color of the ball. All right, Ashley, your turn.
The marker is blue.
The marker is blue. Very good. You're telling me about the color of the marker, and you both use that word is to tell about the color of something.
Yeah.
Good. All right. In reading, you were reading about books, about feelings of different characters. We can use the word is to tell about the feelings of characters. So next, we're going to practice writing the word in the sentence. You both told me that Ruthie was your favorite story. So we're going to write about Ruthie and how she feels.
I know how he feels.
Okay. So look at your picture. Here are some feeling words to help you. Remember, some feeling words are happy, sad, feliz, triste, enojado, mad, excited.
Math.
So look at your picture. This question says, how is Ruthie feeling? How is Ruthie feeling in this picture, Ashley?
Math.
Can you say it in a sentence first? Ruthie is mad. Good. Can you now write using that word is in your sentence? Ruthie.
First I draw is. is
How is she feeling in that picture? You can use the pictures to help you. Happy, feliz, sad, triste, enojado, mad or angry. How's she feeling?
So I know this lesson continues to go on a little bit, but I think we'll kind of draw it to an end so that we have an opportunity to answer any questions that you might have. So Sarah, if you want to keep working with the girls, you sure can, because I know they want to finish their sentences for sure. And at Irving, we have 32 students identified as multi-language learners at this time. And actually out of the 32, 13 came throughout this entire school year. So our population is increasing. So we want to make sure that we are being able to add those supports wherever we can. And we only have one Sarah. We can get more Sarahs. That would be terrific. I know Aaron Norris is shooting like daggers at me right now. But in our school, we service, besides English, we service students with 8 different languages. So do you have any questions? And what you were seeing with Samantha and Aurora, their blended classroom, Samantha's students are not always in that classroom 100% of the day. So that was during some of those instructional times. So any questions for us?
Board, do you have any questions? Sure. Elena? Why don't you- No, go ahead.
I do not know Mike.
Oh, wow. Oh, okay. Oh,
So my question is, do you see any issues separating kids into groups based on proficiency? Like, I do understand that you definitely need to teach kids different things based on where they are, but I know personally as a kid, when teachers would split us up, we always knew, which one is the smart group and which one is not. And I know obviously that's not what that means. Some kids are just farther along in things than others. And, some kids are going to know English really well and not know math really well. But when we were kids, we saw it as like the smart group. And so.
Absolutely. I spend a lot of time working with our social emotional learning. And so I'm always very intentional about children's perceptions of themselves as learners. So first off, my groups switch every week. And so there's quite a lot of changes that happen. There are some friends who frequently work with Ms. Rossi. A lot of times her students, the students that are in the IS classroom spend a lot of time with her, but we do have students that work in both groups and that switch between English and math, depending on the group. And then either 1 or 2 days a week, I will switch so that the students who were labeled to be in the practice group will get a challenge session with Mr. Rossi as well. So there's a lot of movement and a lot of intention behind it. And then it also changes depending on individual skills. So sometimes the students who may be proficient may be struggling with that DGE. And so there's a lot, I think, because of so much movement that I don't see any of the students viewing themselves negatively, but that's a really important question that we always check in with.
Thank you. Thank you. Ms. Carr, did you have another question?
Well, I was going to ask it in a different way. I knew that, so the kids are moving and I love this concept. I think that this is really smart tier 1 instruction. I was just wondering if the teachers moved and taught different groups. Like, did you always teach the more practice or the ones that need advance?
Yep. So just as Mrs. Lemecca said, the kids are constantly moving. We don't, as of right now, we haven't yet switched ourselves from group to group. But having the students constantly moving and in different groups just kind of keeps them on their toes and almost does the reverse.
Okay.
I also want to add that keeping the teachers in the same spot also helps the predictability in terms of helping the students transition smoothly. So I feel like that's also important to note.
Touche.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions from the board? Ms. Deal?
I don't have any questions. I just have a comment. I just wanted to say that I think this is really a great way of using our data. I'm really impressed by how you guys are doing this. And I think it really shows that we're really paying attention to what our learners need. So I just think this is phenomenal. I think it's great. So thank you for sharing this with the board.
Well, thank you for your
Thank
kind
you.
words. It takes a village, right? Yep. Thank you.
Hey, before you.
I just got a hug. Can I hug? Can I get a hug? All right, yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. It's a really great presentation on how this works within the classroom and juggling so many kids and so many teachers at the same time. With that, we are going to move into our superintendent's report. So, Dr.
Absolutely.
Robinson.
So again, thank you to Team Irving for the presentation tonight. It was a great way to start our meeting. I just wanted to start out tonight in a bit of a different way, but just to respond to a couple of public comments that were made on at last board meeting, and I wanted to address them to make sure they had an appropriate response. The first comment was geared toward the possibly RFP for the action program. We're looking at maybe contracting that out, looking at just an exploration. But we do realize that communication and over communication at times is probably a better option. And so I think on this particular issue, that may have been something that we could have done a better job of. And as we've worked with Shelley and the rec department, we are having meetings coming up with the action employees to ensure that they are aware of the possible RFP discussions, as well as anything that comes out of that in the future. So we are attempting to make sure that we're as transparent as we can. Again, this is an exploration just to try to figure out, is this a better option and we can provide a better service for our students. That's the ultimate goal, is to provide better service. And so just wanted to make sure that they were aware of that. And I know the meeting is scheduled for tomorrow, and I am scheduled to attend as well, along with Mr. Norris and Shelley. The other additional comment was directed towards a referendum. I just wanted to start out by just kind of talking historically. I was hired in July of 2023. And during that particular time, we started with the listening and learning sessions with the community, and then went directly into working on the referendum. So there was a 1.5 year time period where we hit every single corner we could, knocked on almost every door, passed out a lot of literature, and that includes everyone that's up here, assisting with the messaging and ensuring that everyone was aware of what we were doing and that our process was transparent. So for the 2024 referendum, the district used the 2022-23 data because it was the most recent fully audited and publicly available information, ensuring accuracy and valid comparisons across districts. When districts look at referendums, they often want to know, what are other districts doing? How are they doing it? How much does it cost? What are the tax implications as well? And so we took that particular action very seriously. The 23-24 data was still preliminary at the time, and was not finalized or released by the state until December 2024, which was a month following the referendum. Our planning and engagement began in spring of 2023, as I said before. So using a consistent and verified data set throughout was intentional to maintain accuracy and transparency. There was no misleading, only to provide reliable information to support informed decisions. If any community member has a personal question or would like more information, As always, I am available to meet. Mr. Norris will avail himself as well. We are willing to sit down with anyone who has a further question or comment. We would love to have a discourse or create an environment of discourse and dialogue, because I think that through that particular process, more information can be obtained and the right information can be learned. That concludes that particular comment concerning that. Now on to the legislative updates. Assembly Speaker Robin Voss spoke at the Wisconsin Politics Luncheon about ongoing negotiations regarding the disposition of the state's surplus. He indicated that while there is no set timeline for a deal, discussions could potentially conclude next month. Voss mentioned he envisions a 50-50 split between the new investments and tax relief in response to the Assembly Democrats' $1.3 billion proposal to increase school aid and special education reimbursement. Speaker Voss remarked it wasn't a serious plan, but expressed openness towards some type of agreement, specifically on special education funding. So that is a start, a major start for the state, and hoping that they can take a closer look at the surplus that does exist. I believe it's $2.4 billion right now. So there's a lot of money that's available to fund schools in a more equitable manner, as well as to support the needs of our students who are in special education. District recognitions, Huskies qualify for State at Junior Achievement Business Challenge. Congratulations to Nathan Hale students Ashton S. and Sam K., as well as Robert K., for taking first place out of 25 teams and Junior Achievement Business at the Junior Achievement Business Challenge regional competition, earning their spot at the state tournament in May. So congratulations to those students. Irving Elementary, wheelchair tunnel grant. I don't think Principal Goss mentioned this, but Irving has around a 34% population for special education, which is we've been really working to decrease that number. They have a lot of the specialized programs that do not exist at other schools throughout our district. And so the Irving physical therapist, Jill Stam, was awarded a $1,000 grant from the West Allis Rotary President Dave Owens to purchase wheelchair tunnels for students to use in physical education classes and on-field day as well. The first tunnel has arrived, and the joy it has brought to students speaks for itself. As a proud member of Rotary, I will thank them personally on this coming Thursday for their contribution. Rotary has gone out of their way to ensure that our programs are up to date, and any funding that's needed, they've always stepped in. So I do appreciate the West Allis Rotary for this contribution. I'm going to call up the cast for Catch Me If You Can. Come on up. For our introductions, you have the floor.
All right. Hello, everyone. So we have a couple of students from the cast of Catch Me If You Can. The show will be taking place at Central High School, April 16th through 18th at 7 p.m. and then April 19th at 2 p.m. So it's a while out yet. It feels a little bit early, but the next regular board meeting will actually be our tech week. So we're here tonight. We have a cast of about 37 students plus a pit of about 15. In our pit orchestra, we also have several district staff members playing alongside our students. And we're putting together our stage crew this past Saturday and in the coming Saturdays. So we have Lilia Hurtado, who is a part of the trio from West Allis Central, and then Georgia Prober, who plays Paula Abagnale from Nathan Hale, and Caden Stormood, who plays Frank Abagnale Sr. from Central. So
hello. Like Mr. Pollard said, I'm Lily Hurtado. I am in the trio for the show, and I'm going to give you a brief introduction to what the show is about. So, Catch Me If You Can is based on the movie Catch Me If You Can, which is based on the semi-autobiography of Catch Me If You Can. So it's a lot of players. But the story remains largely the same across them. So Catch Me If You Can is the story of Frank Abagnale Jr., who at around 16 runs away and fakes his way into becoming a pilot and a doctor and sort of a lawyer. So he takes on all of these different roles, no actual credentials. He is faking all of it and affords this by committing check fraud. So at 16, he is flying across the country, even internationally, and faking his way through it. all the while he's being chased by the FBI because he is committing check fraud. And so the musical itself takes inspiration from 60s TV specials. So it's a musical, it's got a lot of the aesthetics from that. And so it's a lot of fun jazz numbers, but it's got a lot of heart at the same time. So it's a very fun experience, and I hope you guys come to see it.
Hi, my name is Caden Sormud. This show has helped me as a performer, been able to adapt quickly and have critical thinking when time needs be, just in case something does go wrong. And it has also helped me do well under stress. Good stress enough to where to where we actually get work done. But no, overall, this show and this program has done very well for me.
My name is Georgia, and I'm just here to tell you a little bit about why you guys should all come see this show. So it's got something for everybody. There's a lot of laughs, and every single performer, both in the cast and in the pit, people backstage, everyone's just truly very special. Everyone's working incredibly hard, and I think that this is a very good example of students in the district coming together and collaboratively making something pretty cool. So, and it'll make you laugh a lot. Yep.
That is all we have. Any questions? Otherwise,
we're all looking forward to it. It's one of my favorite movies, and so I know you guys will definitely do a great job of adapting it to the stage, and so I'm looking forward to it.
thank you.
Nathan Hale Pi Day Scholarship winners. Congratulations to Nathan Hale's Pi Day winners. Freshman Shahari K broke the school record by memorizing 769 digits of pi, earning first place and a $2,000 scholarship. Mia Bednarski earned second place with 319 digits, $1,000 scholarship. And Jordan H. took third with 286 digits for a $500 scholarship. I want to personally thank Mr. Anthony Leonardelli, who was a class of 2009 graduate, for sponsoring the scholarships. I happened to be on campus that particular day, and Mr. Lesser told me about all of the things that they were doing. I wasn't able to stay for the actual contest, but I did see the kids preparing for it, so it looked like it was going to be a great event. So congratulations to these students, and an expression of their scholarly talent. This is actually, I think I only did 2 digits, so I'm kind of embarrassed right now. All right, yeah, it's not my thing, We have to know our limits, right? Technical Excellence Scholarship recipients. So Nathan Hale has 3 recipients, and the value of the scholarship is up to $2,250 per year and may be applied towards tuition for up to 6 semesters. The scholarship is only for use at a school within the Wisconsin Technical Schools college system located within the state. Eligible students demonstrate interest in and plans for a technical career through an academic and career plan that leads to employment in a technical field. Students are ranked based on their participation in technical education, and their top-ranked students are nominated for the scholarship. So Nathan Hale, 3 scholarships per enrollment. Josie Forrester, Alexander Smith, as well as Austin Bellarine. And the first alternate nomination is Sean Hoffman. Central High School, 2 scholarships per enrollment. Braylon Rapetta Callas, as well as Caleb Huber. And the first alternate is David Schultz. For Dotkey, 1 scholarship per enrollment, Montavious Getsy. And the first alternate is Tyler Kraft. DLVA, Tenaris Camacho. And the first alternate is Travis Egger. So special congratulations to those students for receiving this particular recognition. The alternates are, just in case one of the recipients does not enroll into the technical program, they understand that that's the only way to receive. The alternates are available to slot in their place. So just a few community events from this past week. I just wanted to highlight the citywide band, orchestra, and choir concerts. They were truly, it was great to see our kids and their talents displayed. It was a packed house at all three of these events, and it just kind of shows you the impact of a new facility in a sense of the new confines of the field house, how it just made things just a little bit more spacious, way more enjoyable, the sound system, et cetera. So it was a great use of that referendum money to ensure that our kids have a great place to demonstrate their talents. So thank you for the community for showing up. And our voice representative tonight is not only not only the person I think who's been here the most of the last 2 years, but she is someone who keeps me on my toes. And I challenged her on Friday when we met. I said, "Hey, don't let someone outdo you." And I was talking about Brandon from the previous meeting. Yeah, I know. I told you he was good. So as you can see, Elena has already kind of stepped up with her question already. So it's like when you challenge Elena, okay, you better be prepared. So Elena, you have the floor. What's going on in Nathan Hill?
Sure. So this past couple weeks has been the coming up weeks are going to be super busy. We just had the ACT last week. Seniors did an online day so that they didn't miss a day of school. And then freshmen, sophomores, and juniors all did some version of the ACT. The juniors obviously took the real ACT. The sophomores and the freshmen, they took the pre-ACT, which kind of gives them a projection of where they're going to be. So it's still important that they try, and those scores can, I think, get different state qualifications. There will be a makeup day this week, actually. We're also doing a Spirit Week for National Agriculture Week. So today's outfit was flannel. I think tomorrow's is camouflage. And it's just to celebrate, people in agriculture. Not a lot of people in our school go into that, I want to say. But we do have awards for it at the end of the year. So there are some students who are passionate about agriculture. And we do have a teacher, Miss Agnew, who's also very passionate about the farming. She has a farm. So I think it's important that we draw attention to that. Some of our FCCLA, which is Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America, and some of our HOSA, which is Health Occupations, Future Health Professionals, students are going to state for different events. They've worked really hard. I'm just looking here at what kind of events they're going to. I know there's this thing called anatomage for HOSA where they have a giant screen with a body on it and they have to identify different things. Yeah, so I know that's going to be really cool and exciting for them. Let's see. We do have Youth Art Month, and as Dr. Robinson said, there was all city concerts, which I think went pretty well. I was at the orchestra one, but from what I heard, all of them went well. Also at the public library, I think some of them are being taken down now, but there was on display a ton of art. I was lucky enough to have some of my art there. The track season has just started, which is kind of what I've been focused on. We've already had 2 meets, and we're gonna have 2 more Tuesday and Wednesday. I know that some other sports are definitely doing open gyms. Soccer's doing an open gym. I think I don't think golf's doing an open gym, but they're getting on the roll. And then one of the other exciting things is that we put out our school-wide pulse survey, which is a survey that gauges student engagement and how much recognition we give as a school to our students and to our staff. So we took a benchmark survey at the beginning of the year, and now we just retook it again. At the beginning of the year, we had about half the students respond, and now I'm not sure how many we have now, but I'm sure we'll see at our next Renaissance Leadership meeting. But we just want to gauge how much the extra culture and climate stuff we've been implementing affects the the school. We have this year introduced BIPOC again, which I believe like wasn't going for about a year. I think we had Black Student Union and then we kind of had BIPOC. So that was something that was new in our school. And then another thing is that we have been working extra hard in pep rallies and to meet all these Renaissance Jostens criteria for culture and climate. And we want to see if it's actually having an effect. So I'm sure those survey results will be back to us soon, and maybe one of the other voice members from Hale could speak to it at some point. That's what I have.
All right, and that concludes the superintendent's report for tonight.
Thank you. And that will then take us to our public comments section of tonight. So at this time, if anyone would like to address the board, you may sign up in the back of the room or in the Zoom link that is in the chat. Introduce yourself with your name and address. You have 3 minutes to provide comments. The board cannot discuss, debate, or act upon any item addressed during the public comments portion of the school board meeting. Follow-up may be provided by the superintendent at the next regularly scheduled board meeting. So at this time, we just have one person signed up. So Mr. John Moling. Mr. Moling, if you'd make sure that that light is green so we hear you talking right away.
It is.
All right, good.
John Mulling, New Berlin, 3850. I have to disagree with Dr. Robinson about his assessment of how the numbers were achieved at the 2024 referendum. This is from your information online before the referendum. It says you get $11,000 starting in 2023. You also get $325 for each student. This is the state budget as of 2023 to 2025, which was signed in July of 2023. Your school year was over in 2024 in June, and you were presenting things to us in September and October for the November election. You were telling us, according to this map, this in all your engagement sessions, that you got $10,500 per student. It says this is the 2022-2023 school year, which was outdated because it no longer existed. The 11/3/25 is what counts. So that was also on your website, which I copied. I think this is extremely bad scandal. You guys prepared the people to vote for on those 2 referendum questions in September and October. You were giving them false information at the equivalent of $825 per student. And when you have 6,938 students times $825 extra, you come up with a grand total of $5,723,850 that you had more than you told the people of. I find that to be an extremely terrible scandal. The facts are on your website. You're talking about, well, maybe the audit wasn't done by until December. Aaron tried that one on me too. Doesn't fly. An audit means the report is already done. We're reviewing it to see if it's accurate. Audit in December has nothing to do with the price of bananas. Nothing. I think this really needs, I want all the people of West Dallas, the residents, to know what happened, because I think this was deceiving. I think you used outdated, incorrect statistics, and I can't tell you if they were accidental or purposely done. And the slanted representation of false data certainly influenced voters in their decisions. And now I wonder how the people would vote if they knew all this information right now. And I think you have some explaining to do, and I do not believe those numbers went from 22 to 23, not 23 to 24. And I'm sorry, those are the facts and they're on your website. And I want to make sure this goes in the record. Okay.
All right. And I don't see anyone else currently signed up, so I'll wait for a moment. Seeing no one else racing on there and nothing else popping up onto our site, I will now close public comments. We'll move on to our board reports section of the night, starting with our review of the calendar. So we have tonight, March 23rd, we have a regularly scheduled board meeting. We will have a student services workshop, which includes an update on student mental health, behavior, BCBA, and sensory rooms. April 13th, we will also have a regularly scheduled board meeting where our financial stability and efficiency workshop will talk about the proposed 2026-2027 budget and preliminary tax levy. April 20th, we will have a board workshop meeting talking about bag restrictions and the talent acquisition and employee engagement update. And then on April 27th, we will have again another regularly scheduled board meeting. Moving on to 9.2, our board committee reports. We're going to start off with our employee engagement and culture. Ms. Carr, are you ready?
Thank you, I am. The Employee Engagement and Culture Committee met on March 16th and discussed the following. And we talked a lot about, and we always talk a lot about our key performance indicators for this particular piece of the strategic plan. And it always helps to hear them over and over again. So I'm just going to briefly read. So the majority of our work revolves around the three key performance indicators, which are increased teacher retention, increase our net promoter score on the employee survey. And net promoter basically means the score that on the employee survey that says, would you recommend our district as a place to work? And then the third one is to increase the employee fill rate in our hard to fill positions. So those are the three that this committee is really concentrating on. We revisited them yet again. We keep going over and over them until we have what we feel are clear and succinct KPIs. And that's what we did in the beginning of our meeting. We were given an update on the new suggestion boxes that have been placed in all buildings. Their purpose is for employees to anonymously give feedback on areas of concern and or hopefully tell us of what is going well. Admin will look for trends among the buildings and use the anecdotal data by factoring them in when making any decisions. So as of now, we don't have a ton of them, but I think we need to get the word out and say, hey, to all staff, there is a suggestion box in every building. If you would like to anonymously put anything in it, we definitely will take a look at those and use that data. Under new business, there will be a spring 10-question mini survey emailed to staff. It opens on April 7th and will close on April 21st, and the results will be shared mid-May. Again, the more data we collect, the more we can move towards those three KPIs and meeting that goal. Our last piece of new business was a non-renewals and reallocation of staff update. At this time, there is one non-renewal recommendation, and there are 7 reductions. However, the reductions will be accommodated through attrition and retirement. So there will be no layoffs as of this point, but that's good information for our committee to know. And those are the highlights of the EEC committee meeting.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Carr. Any questions for the EEC? Any questions? No? Okay, none at this time. Thank you so much. All right, and then we'll go into 9.2.2, our recreation and community services. Ms. Lee?
Thank you, President Burns. The Recreation Community Services Committee met tonight right before our board meeting. And we just revisited and actually just kind of reiterating what Dr. Robinson had mentioned earlier, that it is just a reminder for before and after school care that we are only exploring options. There has been no decisions made, strictly collecting information. We want to be able to we are doing this so that we can provide the best services for our families and to be fiscally responsible within our district. So again, there's no decisions that have been made. I just can't stress that enough. We don't want to alarm anyone for no reason. There is no reason for alarm. We're just doing our homework. And again, like Dr. Robinson mentioned, there is a Q&A opportunity for staff tomorrow night at the rec center at 6 o'clock. There was a Google form that was sent out to all staff if they wanted to go ahead and submit questions ahead of time for them to be able to answer. Other than that, that's about it. It was short and sweet.
All right. It's easy. Questions for the Recreation Committee? All right. Seeing none. Thank you, Ms. Lee. And that will take us to 9.3, board member reports of community events. Is there anything that anyone would like to share? Sure, Ms. Carr.
I was serenaded this month. I did go to the district choral festival concert, and as many board members did. And I always think, what would I want to share? And one of the things that I noticed was that part of our job as educators, it's to expose students to many, many different genres, many different avenues of interest. And I think that they did such a good job. I only knew 2 of the songs. And what that said to me was, I'm old and I only knew 2 songs. Like that says to me that they really thought through what kinds of things can we share with students so that they can see the different types of music that's out there. And that's just what they did. And, it was very eclectic and lovely. And then I did go to Walker's 2nd and 3rd graders. Did Singing Across America, a journey of American folk songs. And what I loved about this was we as a district do such a wonderful job of being cutting edge in everything that we do. When you listen to the way that we deliver instruction, that's pretty cutting edge, but yet we always go back to some tradition, and the fact that they sang songs all the way from the Rocky Mountains to the Cumberland Gap tells me all those folk songs, sticking with that and bringing those things back has a lot of merit, a lot of history, a lot of all the things that we, when people say, well, when we went to school, yeah, this is what we were doing. This is exactly. So it was nice to have some tradition mixed in with all of our cutting edge things that we do as well.
Thank you, Ms. Carr. Anyone else? Mr. Verbos.
Well, first of all, I went to the district band concert, which always fantastic, but I think year over year, we're hearing a more and more improvement. I think that that we're getting better. We're getting lucky. We're getting a lot of really, really talented kids coming in. My favorite part of that is seeing the high school kids move over and assist the elementary school band students and kind of coach them through what they're doing, which I think it's just the most adorable part of it. Plus, then you get to watch as they switch between the different groups, you get to watch the kids that are on standby sit on the bleachers behind them and see how into it they are. Because some are super into it, which is really, really great. And then also I did the choral concert. I did not have as good a seat as Miss Carr did, but we enjoyed it. I honestly, I took a wide photo of the field house during that concert. The place was packed. Like the volume of people that were crammed in there was staggering, and parents, and there were a lot of kids running around, but it was a huge crowd. I can't remember the last time I saw a crowd that big for anything. So that was really, really impressive. It was a great experience.
Thank you, Mr. Rubos. Mr. Keller?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a note on the choir concert on Thursday as well. I wanted to really give my appreciation to everybody involved, the teachers, the students. My understanding is they went into the concert and they were a little bit short on rehearsal time because of the weather that we had on Monday, but everybody did an absolutely amazing job. And it was an absolutely wonderful show. And yeah, to Mr. Verbo's point, the place was absolutely packed. So it was a great outcome, great outcome in terms of people that have showed up, and just an overall great event.
Thank you. Anyone else? Events that they have attended? Ms. Lee?
I just, backing off piggybacking on what Alina had talked about with the track meet, the first track meet of the season. I just have to say, again, to see another sport in our new facility our redone facility. And as a parent of these sprinters, I actually was a little more relaxed this year as they ran because there were so many lines on that old floor that I was always like, people don't really know where it is and we're going to have people crashing. And I would hold my breath with every race. And it quite honestly, I'm sure my blood pressure was over the moon. And so it was just really nice and just to be so bright and it was just so much more welcoming. So it was just another great experience. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Becker, did you have something as well?
Also made it to the All City Band concert, which was really nice as always. In addition to watching kids, I know from multiple ages, I was really happy that we have easier access for parents and grandparents into the stands and railings. So that was really nice and remarked on by a few people I overheard. So that was really fantastic. I also made it to the track meet at Central. And in addition to seeing a ton of kids who I've gotten to know over the last few years, I also saw one of the officials there was my history teacher from high school. It's my favorite teacher of all time and my track coach. So that was a personal win for me.
Excellent. All right. Anyone else? Anything else? Sure. Elena?
Yeah, I ran on the track that day and that it was really nice. Yeah. It was good to there's nothing like a new track, especially like it feels better. And I know a lot of people were talking about how they felt faster on the new track. And then I did want to say like especially this might have been an older edition, but like the new concession stand they have at Central looked really nice. A lot of people were in line buying food. And I know they're putting in a new concession stand at Hale, so I'm excited for that. And then I was hoping maybe Mr. Lee would talk about the orchestra concert because I didn't hear anything about the orchestra concert.
Mr. Lee, I believe you're on the spot.
See that up.
I was going to raise my hand, but Elena beat me to it. I was at the orchestra concert. The rumors are true. And as well as the band concert and the choir concert. I'm at the orchestra concert for many reasons, but I have two children that play in the orchestra concert. So I always kind of put that aside because I'm always going to be there as a parent. But I obviously listen to all the kids, including Elena, when they perform. And they do a wonderful job. Seeing the change from elementary to intermediate to high school, the level of skill that is able to be transferred as they move along in the musical arts is always very interesting to see, and something that I think that is unique to our district and how early they're able to start. And I think the kids had the opportunity for kids to start so early with orchestra in particular. Really shows when they get to high school because they have those additional years of practice that they're able to do and hone their skills in the instruments that they play. So that is always very impressive for me. So thank you, Elena, for bringing that one up. When it comes to the band concert, I'm always surprised by the courage that the elementary band teachers have in what they allow their elementary students to do in front of a crowd that big. And the fact that they could do things like dynamics at that age, to me is always very, like, when I was a kid, it was either I didn't talk at all, or I was up here if how loud I was. Like, to be able to moderate that in a musical sense when they're in a big group all together, I think is very impressive from that perspective. And the same would go for the choir. I'm always impressed with they have just a giant column of kids all the way up and down a bleacher, and they're able to control them and get them to do what they're supposed to do and do dynamics and stuff like that. That's just very, very impressive to me. And I think it provides a fun time for the students, which then instills that love of music in them that hope they're able to continue as they move in with their educational careers here in our district. So, and then I've already spoken a lot, but I also attended the track meet. I did see some people run. There was a lot of great comments on that. And I think that The community, I don't think I've heard a negative comments about the field house since it's been redone and all the different things that we've been able to utilize it in so far. And so I think at this point, at least, the community is happy with that investment. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Anyone else? Dr. Robinson, you want to join in? No? No? Okay. Okay. Yeah. So I guess I missed the orchestra and band concert. You did. And then my son yelled at you and told you I wasn't there. I was off traveling, but I was able to make it to the choir concert, and I all the accolades that everyone has given, I would second. It was a great event. So yeah, with that, then I think what we're going to do is we're going to move on to our 9.4 other updates and information items. And today I do have a couple of things for that. So, WASB is always very quick about responding to things. And one of the things that we had this year is that WASB has sent us some member recognitions for a couple of our members. And we have recognition certificates and pens for board members who have attained a new level in the WASB member recognition program of 2025. And so this was, when was WASB? About January? Yeah, so they were very fast in getting this here. But we have two people. We have Joe Becker gets both a certificate and a pen. And then we also have Jane Carr, who also raised her level and so congratulations to you both for your continuing service with WASB and with the school board programs. It's wonderful to see that recognition that comes through in other ways. Yes, sir.
Could you just explain, like, how do you achieve a new level?
They didn't include that. Go ahead.
Well, I turned it off again. Essentially, you get points for attending WASB events. So depending on if it's a regional meeting or a statewide meeting or something like that, you basically accrue points by attending. And then if you get a certain points, you get the different level. So that's what that's about. This is new for probably a lot of people. So I just wanted to give some context.
New for me as well. So yes. Okay, yeah, Kristen, you had your hand raised?
Oh, yeah, I was going to back up Mr. Lee. And also, if you log into WASB, you can check your points and how you earn points as you go through the ranks, just so people know.
Excellent. I have to do that because I didn't even know that exists. I didn't know I was winning points. All right. So news for everybody. And then one of the other things that I want to address, because the topic has come up quite a few times over the years that I have been on the board. And one of the things that comes up is that the community, they watch our videos, they watch our school board meetings, and what they say is, well, you guys don't ask any questions. You just kind of vote and off you go. And I wanted to address that in some way because I think it's one of those pieces that people forget that this board meeting is not the only meeting that we attend. We have our committee meetings, which is where most of the work is done and brings that work to the board. So by the time we're getting it in these meetings, we've had questions. We have at least 3 members that are supporting the information and the process or the topic coming forward. So, and then we also, as we're here with this, we do get information ahead of these board meetings that we can review on our own. So we're able to reference quite a few different things, not only the work that committees do and bringing that forward, but also just the presentations and understanding and reviewing before we get here. So I wanted the community to understand that this is the end, this is the game, and all the practice is our committees, it is all of our other meetings, it is talking to our constituents. And so this is where we are at the end of our process, which is why oftentimes it looks like it goes very quick and there's not a lot of dissent because we've we've worked that out through all the other work that we've done. So I just wanted to bring that up, especially for anyone online and anyone that does watch this here in the end, that you understand that this is a process that is continually evolving and progressing as we move forward. So with that, we will move on to item number 10, our consent agenda, which tonight includes 10.1, the approval of minutes, 10.2, the employment summary, 10.3, the supplementary contracts, and 10.4, the financial report summary. Does anyone need anything separated out at this time? All right, with nothing being separated, no hand up from Ms. Kaiser. Okay, I would entertain a motion at this time.
Move to approve 10.1, 10.2, 10.3, and 10.4.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? All right, seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passes. All right. And that will take us then to item number 11, our action item for tonight, which is the approval of the 2026-2027 professional educators compensation model, which I believe is being discussed by Mr. Norris.
Good evening, everyone. Pull up my notes quick. So this conversation is really a follow-up to our workshop we had on the 9th related to the district compensation model. And so a few quick things I want to highlight before I open the floor or turn it back to President Burns are just a few things that the compensation model that you saw last board meeting is an accumulation of over, I'd say, almost 2 years worth of work from the school board's perspective, the administration's perspective, certainly the finance department, human resources department, communication department, but most importantly, the work of the entire district of staff. And so I think one of the points that I made to Dr. Robinson today, him and I were at Central along with Laura and Alyssa, and it's our second biggest school, and we opened the floor for 2 hours for staff to come talk, and we didn't get one question on this topic. And so I think from working with the committee for a year, being in schools, giving people opportunities to come and have conversations with us, with their building reps, to being able to submit dialogue whenever they needed to, trying to make sure that their questions got answered. And certainly, I know you guys know this is not a perfect model, but I think it makes substantial improvements to give staff transparency, to give them knowns in the future, and certainly to give educators a significant bump. The average teacher, not all, the average teacher will get a 6.6% raise next year. And so I think that's substantial. I think it shows a commitment from the board, from the administration, and certainly from our teachers in the district. So while it's not perfect, I think there's certainly things we can build upon. This is a foundation that I think is worth doing. So with that, I think I would take questions.
All right. Any questions from the board? Actually, before we have questions, would anyone from the financial committee like to speak on the decisions and the things that are coming forward with this? Is there any comments that you have for it? Yes, Ms. Clark.
Well, this is just such a timely example of what you just said. We have been working on this for so long. By the time we get to this vote, we already know everything inside and out. And I do have to say that I distinctly remember when Aaron, I'm on that committee, and when Aaron came before us, the board, with this proposal and said, we've really got to hash this out. We got to make sure it's just right. And we talked about it for a few months. And then he said, okay, so it's looking like 25, 26. And I was like, wait, you mean we got to wait a whole, we have to, this process is going to take a whole nother school year? And he's like, absolutely, Jane, that's exactly what I'm saying, because we need to make sure we have absolutely everything in place and we can stand behind whatever we put forward, and we need input from everyone. And I was so antsy to get this on the road because I knew right away it was going to be a success. I knew right away this is what we needed, but I had to sit through many a meeting and through lots of updates because that's the way Aaron rolls. Aaron makes sure that everything is in its place before he's ready to actually take it to vote. So I'm thrilled. I have nothing to say, but I can't wait to get this passed.
All right. Anyone else from the financial committee? Oh, yep. Ms. Kaiser?
Thank you to the 5 people who pointed up. I only have a couple of meetings. I only have a couple meetings left, but I just want to say as a current teacher that this teacher compensation model is something I've wanted to see since I started. I remember a meeting 6 years ago where I was literally crying because of how we paid our teachers. And it was just not where we should be, especially as a district that wants to lead moving forward. And I'm really proud that we have the support of the community. I'm really happy for our teachers, and I'm really happy that this is moving forward now.
Thank you, Ms. Kaiser. I mean, yeah, you are, but you don't have to.
I was going to say something anyways, you know how it goes. So I was part of the last compensation plan that was put into place that was originally created to try and start correcting the ills that happened in the district shortly after Act 10 was implemented and the financial issues that followed a few years later. And so with this plan in place, some of the questions I remember asking, well, how does this compare to other districts? And those sorts of things just were not taken into account with that last plan with the micro-credentials. And so with this one, it's very evident that that work has been done to ensure that other districts and how they pay their staff is looked at to be make this as comparable as possible. But also for the long-term viability, financial viability of the district, we could keep doing it. We don't want to have to do this again 3 years from now. And I think that's the biggest piece is that the longevity of this, barring crazy things happening at the state level for funding, the longevity of this should be able to last far into the future. And that's the biggest thing for staff, having that consistency, having reliability, having knowability of what their salary is going to be by looking at the schedule is one of the things that they asked for. And so I'm really glad that this plan, pending board approval, would be able to do that. And the only thing I could say is I can't wait to see the next plan come forward for the other staff that are not included in this one. Mm-hmm. So I know that work, Ms. Carr, will have to start and will probably take about the same amount of time. But at the end of the day, I think we're going to do what's right for our staff and hopefully increase that consistency within our district. So I want to thank all the work that the compensation committee put into this, the staff members, teaching staff, and the administrative staff that have spent countless hours going through, looking at other districts and looking at what staff wanted and looking what we could afford and coming together to form something that is sitting in front of us right now. And that work is something that we as board members are not maybe fully aware of, but it's definitely what has informed what we have in front of us today. So thank you so much, Aaron, and to your team and the competition committee members. If there's anyone here in the audience with us, thank you, are listening. I think this will be great for our district, and I'm looking forward to the vote. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. And then with that, so we've got quite a few things. So now questions, if we might have any, or comment. Sure.
Quick. Obviously as a board, our focus is on student outcomes, right? And our students having success at this level. And I think a big testament or a big factor in that is making sure that we're able to retain our teachers. And I think this is going to be a big step toward being able to do that. So again, to echo some of the other comments, I just appreciate everybody's work and effort in working on this and bringing this forward, and really excited for what this means for the future of the district moving forward.
All right. Awesome. Are there any questions from any of the board members at this time? No? Was that a hand, Mr. Verbose, or no? It went like this. This is how I raised hands when I was in high school. I'm just saying. All right. I'm just saying. All right. Elena, do you have any questions on this since you've been crushing us tonight in your questions?
I do not have a question, but I did want to add to what Mr. Keller said about like keeping teachers as a student in high school. It's taken years for me to build this level of like being integrated into my community. And it's taken me a long time to get to where I am and get the involvement level that I am at. So I think it's definitely important that teachers who are pretty much in charge are also getting the opportunity to be at that same level of involvement in their school communities.
Thank you. All right. So if there are no questions, then do you have anything further, Mr. Norris?
No, just appreciate the board support.
You bet. All right. So then at this time, I will entertain a motion.
Moves to approve 11.1.
Second.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? All right. Seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, that passes. Congratulations, Mr. Norris and the Financial Committee. All right, that will take us to item 12, our workshop, student services workshop with Ms. Sage and other people that are not noted. So you get to introduce everyone.
Our little Irving friends that.
Ms. Sage, whenever you're ready and things pop up, take it away.
Those are all that one next to your team. Yeah, just make sure you got it close enough to hear. Excellent. All right. So good evening. Proud to be able to present some things that are happening in the land of student services. For student services, what I need everybody to understand is the Student Services Department serves all students in our district in the areas of mental health, well-being, providing student services for that have disabilities, as well as ensuring that students are feeling safe at schools. So kind of when people think about like what falls under student services, it's full of S's. We've got the student services, we've got special education, we've got school safety, and it just so happens my last name starts with an S too. So that keeps it quick and simple. Switching over, this is the mission and vision of the Student Services Department under my care. And this is very connected with what we have for our mission and vision for the district. And the main thing that I would highlight is what we take a look at is that every student feels supported, valued, and safe. And mostly that we focus on where barriers for success can be removed. That's very much of like when you think about the Student Services Department, it's like what are the barriers? What are the things that are keeping students from being successful? That's where we come into play. So looking at our KPIs, those key performance indicators, taking a look at the ones that we have that align with our strategic plan. When we take a look at the graduation rate, that is our ultimate goal as a system. That's where we want our students to be in order for them to experience success beyond high school. In the area of safety, this is important to me, as you all know me in this area, like a lot of brain-based, brains that don't feel safe don't learn very well. So putting safety pieces into place so that kids are feeling safe and able to learn as best as they're able. When we take a look at attendance, it's also pretty hard to learn if you're not receiving instruction. So what are the supports that students need in order to feel comfortable coming to school, to feel successful, to be able to feel like they're here and part of the community and ready to learn? In the area of special education, under both ELA and math, we're taking a look at closing gaps, and that's by looking for different ways that we can have our students achieve aggressive growth. And in the area of SEL, it's teaching and practicing lagging skills in an authentic setting. So very much the philosophy isn't ever a student doesn't want to learn, a student doesn't want to be successful. It's a matter of what needs aren't being met and what are the skills that they need in order for that to happen. So this evening, what we're going to be presenting to you, the topic areas, we have tiered levels of support for behavior. We're going to be taking a look at some updates in mental health services that are being provided for students. We're going to be hearing about a board certified behavior analyst that is new to our team for this year. And then as well as giving you information in regard to sensory rooms. In that first one, the tiered level of support for behavior for those who have been around for a while, there's this whole thing of, is it multi-tiered system of support? Is it multi-level system of support? The bottom line is people are familiar and understand tiers. The state of Wisconsin goes layers. So we were working with MLSS, multi-layer system of support, focusing on the behavior piece for this evening. The other part is there's been some question of, is it EMLSS? Now, most recently, Wisconsin has gone to WIMLSS. So at this point, because that prefix keeps changing, we're sticking with MLSS. And then as it shifts and changes, then everybody knows what it is that we're talking about. So moving into the first area that we're going to be talking about this evening, and that is the MLSS, that multi-level system of support. I have Kristen Brownell here with me, who is our lead primary counselor. This year, we've been collaborating with the Association of Wisconsin School District Administrators, ASA. You've heard of the SAIL, that's under that same category, in order to revamp the social emotional behavior side of MLSS. It's our multi-level system of support. What we've entered into this year is we are reestablishing that the foundation of the system stems from positive behavior intervention supports, PBIS, for those of you who are familiar with that, as well as restorative practices. So this means that these frameworks influence the practices that we're going to put in place at the universal, which is for all kids, targeted, those who are identified as needing some additional supports, and intensive levels of supports for students. And so those are the levels where it's like, it's the highest and it needs more individualized support for those students. So at this point, to get started with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Brownell. Yep.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me here tonight. This image on the slide comes from the MLSS behavior playbook that we've developed with ASA, and it's a document that defines the systems we believe in, clarifies the menu of supports we're providing students, and documents our processes and systems, which is something we've never really had before. We've done PBIS and restorative practices before, but not in a well-defined, clear-cut manner. And so we've done a lot of hard work to make this straightforward and clear of what are our 3 layers of support and how are we supporting kids. So if you look at the yellow section for Tier 1 universal prevention, universal support is that systemic foundational piece of the PBIS and restorative practices for behavior prevention at a school-wide level. And that includes things like teaching all students a social emotional behavior curriculum. We currently use Second Step. So making sure they're receiving that on a consistent basis with fidelity so that they're building skills to interact appropriately with their peers. So they're building skills to advocate for themselves. They're building skills to regulate any big feelings that come up. Part of what we're incorporating into that is expectations to make sure across our buildings that we're doing all the components to build expectations for school-wide behaviors, for classroom behaviors via the use of a behavior matrix, recognizing positive behaviors that we want to encourage and keep seeing. So you'll see some of those listed in the menu there for Tier 1. Looking at Tier 2 and the green area, targeted supports an additional layer of support that's introduced when the rounds of universal support in the classroom aren't yielding positive trends in our behavior data or our attendance data. And so we take a deeper look at those students and say, what additional learning do they need? What additional skill practice do they need to help them be successful in the classroom, to help them be successful across school-wide settings? So the menu includes things like check in, check out, which is very focused on skill building, different things specific to the student needs, and things like our social academic intervention groups, which is small groups that also continue learning and skill practice depending on the student's needs. And then looking at that red triangle, for the uppermost 5% that aren't responding to supports in the classroom, aren't really getting too much positive trend on their data for tier 2 interventions. We have tier 3 intensive intervention, which just it increases the frequency of support and the intensity of support. So let's say a student's in a small group once a week with me. Maybe in addition to the small group, they're also coming to see me one-on-one to dive even deeper and do some more learning and skill practice. So like Laura mentioned, we've used these programs before, but what we really want to reiterate is going to be different in reestablishing these practices is accountability of practice, fidelity checks to make sure we're doing what we set out to do and doing it the correct way, and providing professional development and opportunities for collaboration for our teachers. They're the ones doing a lot of the heavy lifting, especially at our tier 1. We want them to feel capable. We want them to feel supported in doing this work with our students. So what that looks like is accountability of practice being incorporated with fidelity checks, doing checks on the second step lessons. Are they happening when we say they're going to happen? Are the kids engaged? Are they happening on a consistent basis per the pacing guide that's created? Also doing things like having consistent meetings with our leadership and student services teams, looking at the actual data from our behavior interventions and seeing if, student A on check and check out, are they positive? Are they trending positively or are they trending negatively? And if they're trending negatively, what can we look at? What can we tweak? What can we adjust to fit the skill needs that the student needs some support on? And doing that on a weekly basis helps us get to the end of an 8-week intervention round with some meaningful, intentional steps to supporting these kids versus not really paying attention to the data, getting to the end of that 8-week round and saying, oh, well, this, I don't really know what's going on, or I just found out the teacher wasn't checking in with a child and we've kind of wasted some time. So getting our eyes on that data at a weekly basis will really help make sure that these interventions are being done with fidelity and really aiming to, give students that support in the way they need. Also, moving forward, we are going to do consistent professional development for our teachers in response to behaviors they see in the classrooms. This is the biggest or most consistent feedback we get from teachers that they need support on of how to respond when these behaviors come up, because they always do. Sorry, my throat's getting dry. So we want to make sure they have continued learning of how to respond to behaviors in a way that's helpful for the student and that's helpful for the rest of the class that's trying to learn. So we have some professional development we'll be doing with them on a monthly basis throughout the school year. And we're also building in collaboration time into the teacher schedules where they meet with their student services team once a week to see how things are going, to look at data for their classroom for behaviors and attendance, to see how those tier 1 strategies are going in the classroom. Is there any coaching they need on those, before we're jumping into tier 2 interventions? So what that looks like on our next slide for moving into our focus that we've been working on this year, our summer work, and what this will look like for rollout in the fall is currently for this school year, we've been working a lot with our professional development for student services, our school counselors, our social workers, and our school psychologists to teach them the overall scope of the new MLS behavior system in order to build their familiarity and their capacity to implement these components at each level so that they feel more comfortable going into next school year when they're teaching this to teachers and staff. So given that this work was being developed during the school year, we've recognized there's still a need to respond to behaviors. Students aren't patiently waiting for us to complete this whole book. They're doing what they do. They need our help and support. So to recognize that, we had student services focusing on tier 2 targeted supports. So things like check in, check out, charts, and being in small groups. So we've retaught how to conduct check in, check out and small groups with fidelity. And we provided structure for implementing Tier 2 and Tier 3 intervention team meetings. And that includes student services and their leadership at the building to practice getting their eyes on the data and making data-based decisions on are the interventions working or not? And if they're not working, what do we need to do to help these students begin to thrive in the areas they're currently lagging? So summer work is going to be a lot of work with building leadership and student services to review structural components at each of the levels. So for Tier 1 universal supports, having those conversations about what are your building-wide expectations? How are you going to introduce classroom behavior matrix to your teachers? How do you recognize positive behavior in your buildings? Can we reward that? So getting those systems in place so they're ready at the beginning of the school year, and doing the training to review second step and teaching it with fidelity. And so student services can be ready to roll out that training for their teachers that they do every year and introduce things that help the teachers put those components in place in their classrooms. For Tier 2 targeted supports, we'll be continuing to review the components of check-in, check-out in small groups, doing it with fidelity and operating from data, with the expectation that we're consistently looking at that data. It's not going in skyward and getting forgotten about. We have our eyes on it consistently to make decisions based on what the data is showing us. And then within Tier 3 intensive supports, continuing training on our functional behavior assessments and behavior support plans we can create for students who really need an individualized plan to support them with what they have going on, really getting to the root of the function behind their behaviors and what they need from us. And this review and planning will help prepare us to roll all of this out come the fall. So fall will be highly focused on how we're introducing all of this to our teachers. Our MLSS behavior playbook will be introduced to teachers during our back to school professional development days, along with a timeline of when these components need to be introduced and what that will look like. So for example, like within the first 30 days of the school year, student services will review Tier 1 universal prevention system components and guide teachers for how and when those components are introduced to their students and implemented in their classrooms. So that could look like this week we're preparing for our school-wide expectation kickoff, where all students are learning behavior expectations for the hallway, behavior expectations for the bathroom, behavior expectations for assemblies. Teachers are getting their behavior matrices developed with their students. You'll be able to see it posted in their classroom when you walk in, so students know how they're expected to behave during learning time. So things like that. And then during the school year, to continue learning for teachers and support for teachers, each month we'll introduce one of the behavior response strategies from the MLSS behavior playbook to help them continue to learn and review, including expectations for how they'll move forward and apply those behavior prevention skills in their classroom. So for example, one of the behavior prevention strategies is behavior-specific praise with the language you use with a student. So this means they would get a presentation on the use of behavior-specific praise, why it's helpful, how it's used, important components of behavior-specific praise, and then expectations of how they can implement it in their classroom. And fidelity checks will be completed between leadership and student services to see if they're attempting to implement that strategy or not. And then follow-up coaching can occur for teachers who are maybe new to the skill or might require more support during behavior collaboration time with their student services. That's been built into their schedules. So we're hoping that reestablishing foundations of things that are research-based have been proven to work well when done with fidelity, and us very intentionally building in those fidelity and accountability practices will help have a strong reset for our behavior support systems in our schools.
So during this school year, this has been a lot of the work that's been done by the committee and the team in preparation for preparing for what's coming for the summer for training, and then what is going to be starting strong with the school year next year. So, so that's the background on that.
And before you move on, I just have to say hi to Elena May. I had the privilege of being her school counselor at Walker, and I'm so proud of you. You're so amazing. The last I saw you, you were very worried about choosing between chorus or orchestra for your sixth grade music choice. I see you went with orchestra. It's just amazing to see how you've bloomed and developed. You're such a wonderful young lady.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And I do actually remember that.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I picked orchestra.
And I do have to say, she leaned over earlier when some of the other students, and she said, that's some of my Walker students. I feel so old. And I said, don't even start. All right. So there's the MLSS component. So moving forward, taking a look at some things that are going on in the land of mental health, some PD that we've been providing for our student services staff. And again, when we say student services in this context, we're talking about psychologists, social workers, and counselors, as well as different partnerships that we have with the outside agencies that provide services for our students within our school settings. So I'm going to pass that on over to Larry Lineberger, who is our lead social worker.
Thank you, and good evening. Yes, some of the PD that we do is, I mean, many times, it's on. So yes, many times a parent might come to us for the first time for some of the mental health needs that they might be identifying for their son or daughter. So we want to stay on top of our game. So some of the professional development that we bring in also is outside agencies that do provide community resources. Very early in the year, we learned about Nora Mental Health. They are new to our community and they provide some direct therapy services. So learning about them. At our very last professional development, we brought in Wraparound Milwaukee. They provide different programs for throughout all of Milwaukee County, and they are just a wealth of resources, quite honestly. And they're always kind of up to date. So we stay on top of things with them, often bringing them in. These and many, many more actually are going to be at our mental health fair, mental health community resources fair at where? Central, the new field house. So that'll be coming up in May. Actually,
big plug here.
Big plug. I have flyers. I have flyers to put in the back and they're full color. But Saturday, May 18th, 8 a.m. to 11 at Central Fieldhouse. Hope you're able to join us and the community will be able to do that as well. So
this is our first annual, so we're going to see how this goes.
yeah, we want to see this thing grow. And we're meeting with some other community people at our next PD that are already invited. Student services, though, also in our buildings, we are the liaison often for some of the continued partnerships that we have. PSG and WellPoint are in all. We would partner with them and make sure that their presence in our building does assist us in reducing barriers to mental health services. Next slide. Here, we're going to talk a little bit about some early warning indicators where, well, the first one they'll talk about here is social academic emotional risk screener, MySabers for short. This is really might help us identify a particular need in a student. This is something that is actually also we are measuring in our key performance indicators. We want to see growth in MySabers over the course of some years here in our student services strategic plan. What this is simply is students complete a very brief questionnaire. They do it about themselves. They do it up to 3 times a year, fall, winter, and spring. And it's really important to understand that this isn't a diagnosis of any kind. This is a student identifying some of their own areas of perhaps need that we would get into with them.
And for background, this is the Wise Dash version that we have switched from Panorama that we had talked about last year, so that you've got
very good. Yeah. Exactly. So again, we're just looking to gain some insight about the perception of students of their own social, academic, emotional behaviors. Other early warnings, indicators that we would look at, and we would be diving into like attendance data, behavior data, those type of things, academic data as well. These screening results are definitely shared with parents. And if there's any type of suggestion of need for partnerships to think of some resources, we would be doing that with teachers, parents, student services together, and we might consider some of those next interventions that were mentioned within our tier 2 areas, like check-in, check-out, in which they would be doing this daily with a mentor. It might be a counselor, it might be a social worker, it might be at the secondary level where we have youth advocates, or a teacher to do a daily check on some goal area, getting them some feedback as well, and some just skill building too. We also spoke just briefly on social academic intervention groups. That'd be a SAG group that's a little bit more intensive. That's going to be student service delivery on social skills, specifically a lot of behavior skill building, and that small group is setting that would be a bit more intense, quite honestly.
So understanding that when we're taking a look at data and determining who the students are that are needing interventions in the system that we're talking about, the My Sabers is kind of the child's perspective or the student's perspective on where am I at and how at risk am I, et cetera. But we also triangulate and we take a look at information based on what are the behavior referrals suggest, as well as teacher input. So all of those things are taken into consideration in determining who the students are that are in need of intervention. All right, so switching next then, and Ms. Steele already gave a plug for this before the school board meeting began. We're moving into our new this year board certified behavior analyst, BCBA, as you'll hear it referred to. We used to contract with CISA for BCBA direct services. Denise Meyer, who was a school psychologist in our district, has completed the intensive training and coursework that's required in order to become a certified BCBA. Currently, having completed this training, this allows her to provide what you see listed on the slide. So she provides assessments, program development, data collection, etc. I will go a little further into that. So what is being done this year? Now, understanding this is very new. This is something that's not common in public school districts. However, it is something that is being very much considered and watched by other school districts currently, because it is very commonplace across essentially the country of looking at social, emotional, mental health behavior that we're taking a look at with students. As far as like, what are the research-based new and better ways of getting at what is the basis of what's going on with students and how we can best help them and provide the services they need. So when we take a look at what the BCBA is able to do at the tier 2 level, it's providing consultation for the concerns that might be starting to brew or coming up for students. But primarily, it's very focused on providing direct services at the tier 3 level, which includes very intense, individualized assessments, plans, and supports for students. It also allows for the BCBA to provide training and support for our EAs. You've probably heard we have a lot of in and out of EAs coming and going. And one of the concerns with that is the feeling of not feeling prepared for the job, to know what to expect with it. And so in working this year with our EAs in that vein, we have the BCBA who is providing support for the EAs, and I'll get further into the next slide of what that looks like. Reviewing special ed teachers' understanding even of identification of the function of behaviors, and to be able to facilitate change and ongoing training for our student services staff, particularly in the area of FBAs and BIPs, so functional behavior assessments and behavior intervention plans. So this is kind of getting to that space of what I was talking about earlier of like, there's a component of what are the needs of students, what are the barriers. That's a lot within the mental health, within the student services area. And then when we start getting into this part, it's like, what are the actual lagging skills? And if we can get down to what is the need the child isn't being met in the proper way for them to be able to have the proper behavior, or is it a matter of they just haven't learned a better way to get their needs met and are using behaviors that are communicating something to us, but not in the way that is going to be successful in a school setting?
So that takes us to this year, we have 3 levels of EAs. In the level 1, that can be either special education or regular education. Level 2 is special education EAs as well as level 3. So what we're talking about here is something called Registered Behavior Technicians, RBTs. So when you hear that acronym, that's the group that we're talking about in level 2. So our level 2 EAs are actual certified RBTs. However, we have decided that we are providing the training, which is essentially some very specific training for EAs on how to assist with carrying through plans for students who need behavior plans, how to collect data so that we're able to monitor and see what is the success rate, or are we in a stagnant place, and do we need to take a look at different ways of looking at this behavior. So our level 2s are actually following through to complete the entire process to be registered behavior technicians. Level 1s, 2s, and 3s are all receiving the training. As you can see in phase 1, they're completing the 48 hours of the self-paced online training. And then there is a competency assessment that they need to pass in order to be considered completed with that. The actual registered behavior, bless you, the actual registered behavior technicians, the RBTs, then not only do those areas, but they also work with the BCBA, who verifies that they have learned and are implementing what they've learned. And then there is an actual RBT exam to get them to the space that then they are now considered a certified registered behavior technician. You'll notice that there may be a question of like, so level 3, why is that there? They are getting that training at the 1 and 2 level of the RBT training. But our level 3s are also certified nursing assistants as well, so CNAs. So that's the distinction that puts them between a 2 and a 3 there. Currently, we have 86 EAs that have been assigned to take the training. And we have, as of this point, we have 27 who have completely done the 40 hours, the test, the entire thing. So we're at 31% so far. We have into May where they are able to, so we have quite a few of the EAs who are in the process of training. They just haven't completely done all of the hours and or completed the test yet. So that is in the works at this time. And then finally, so our sensory rooms, and those came to be because last year, if you recall, I brought some information we had done. We had someone from outside come in and do our special education audit and took a look carefully at some of the things that we were doing for our special education students and services and programs that we were providing. And one of the recommendations that did come out of that audit was for us to give consideration to create sensory rooms. So that was supported by Dr. Robinson. And what we did is we designated where those rooms were going to be in buildings. And then we actually came up with like a template of like, what would a room need to look like? What kinds of items would need to be in there? And then we went pretty much through with the buildings as far as like, what are some of the tweaks and needs that they might have a little bit different that they need to do in order for their sensory room to be successful. But for the most part, they're pretty similar going from building to building. But I'm going to introduce Kim Stickle, who is an occupational therapist in our district, who actually, where this came to be was she was so excited about the success of what was happening at the sensory rooms at Irving that she had contacted Ann Locke, who forwarded the information to myself and Dr. Robinson to say, like, we need to get this information out to you guys, because if we've got OTs and people that are in there working with the students and seeing what's happening, this excited about it, we want you to be aware of that. So I am going to hand it over to Kim.
All right. Thanks for listening. I'm here on behalf of our OT department. There are 9 of us and 2 COTAs. So I'm representing all of us. We service every building in the district. So when this initiative was introduced, we helped out in our respective buildings to make these rooms happen. And in case you're not familiar with the concept of sensory rooms, they're specially designed spaces for students that might feel over anxious or overstimulated. So very calm, structured environments, very mindful equipment was chosen. And importantly, they're used for regulation, not recreation. These are not just timeout spaces or playrooms. Everything is very mindfully placed in there. And it's available to all students. This is not for special ed students. This is accessible for all the students in the building. There's a lot of great research that backs the use of sensory rooms in schools. NIH just put out a big study. UC California put one out too, that they see improved behavior, improved academic performance. It's considered a proactive versus punitive, which is what we want, not so much reactive, but kind of heading off a lot of the behavior things that we might see. It improves academic readiness and supports neurodiversity. So if you've ever walked into a school, you can understand why sensory rooms are important. It's an assault of pretty much every possible sensory channel, noise, bright lights, touch or movement, busy classrooms, the hallways, you're in close contact with other people. And everybody has a different level of threshold of what they can handle. And there's also the more hidden emotional stress and trauma. So the point of the sensory rooms are to help the students reset, to have a actual space they can go to reset so they can return to learning ready and focused. They're commonly used with kids with autism, anxiety, ADHD, emotional regulation difficulties, sensory processing challenges, but also a lot of trauma-related needs in our buildings. But also they're going to support kids needing just short-term regulation support. So kids that don't have a diagnosis, but still kind of need that space. And I would say staff too, you know, it's a very great place for staff to poke into too when they need it. So this is what a picture of a few of our elementary schools, just to get an idea of what they look like. We very much appreciate the access to this equipment that was mindfully purchased. The one on the right there is Irving. You know, every building has a different amount of space allotted. Irving had a pretty small room, which was a little intimidating at first to outfit, but had a lot of fun with that one because it's a small space, but it's designed a single use, like more like a calming room. Some of the larger ones, like the one on the left, you know, they're able to have trampolines and swings, so they're more multi-use. So I'll talk in a little bit about what rooms seem to be working better than other ones, but those just a picture. So how they're used at school, all the staff was trained in the beginning of the year by the OTs. I think in every building, OTs did staff training. In Irving, because we have such a high special ed population, we actually did 2 trainings, one specifically for the EAs because they were the ones taking most of the kids in there. But again, it's all for all students. Short structure breaks. Really, realistically, it looks like a 5-minute break, 10 minutes at the most. This is not a place where people are hanging out. The goal is to get kids into the classroom more. So they're using those rooms to take a mindful break. One thing we've really emphasized with staff is it's not a performance-based, contingent performance based on performance. So it's not a reward, it's not a consequence or punishment. The children, it's a very mindful break and should not be used as like a reward or a timeout. Also not a place for groups of students. Works much better if it's an individual supervised student. But the goal is to help them build self-regulation skills over time. So that's what some of the training has focused on, is to really help the kids become more mindful. Why are you in here? What is the goal of being in here? And the goal is to not necessarily need that room for the whole year. So what's working, the OTs decided as part of our student learning outcome goal that we would take data on all the buildings of before and after using the room. And I would say on average, we had a 94 to 98% staff reported positive changes before and after their time in the sensory rooms. That was either the kids reporting themselves or whoever was with them, kind of making that judgment call based on what they observed. The timing of the breaks seems to be when there's more consistent use when there's staff available to accompany the student. So every school has a different number of staff that might be available. So we're finding that when there is availability of staff, the rooms are being used more. Single focus success, the rooms that seem to be just designed for like calming seem to be more successful. The rooms that are larger have more space. Sometimes kids can get more dysregulated in that. So we're kind of tweaking some of those things. This is the first year, so we're all kind of learning together with staff. But the really cool thing that the data has been showing is that the rooms are starting to become more proactively used. So teachers might identify like, the student is having trouble at this certain time of day every day. Why don't we preempt that behavior meltdown with a visit to the sensory room for 5 minutes? So they're scheduling a break. Most of the rooms have schedules posted. And so they go to the room for their 5-minute break to kind of preempt that time that they might otherwise be out in the hall having a behavioral meltdown. So we're actually seeing an increase of sensory breaks or proactive breaks and a decrease of reactive needs. So that tells me that it's working and that staff is really embracing kind of the mindfulness of why these rooms are there. We're getting a lot of good anecdotal evidence. These were a couple that I threw up there from people in the halls. The building seems more calm. Scheduled breaks are really helping the students stay in class and attend better all day. So really great evidence coming out of the rooms. And then, moving forward, it's our first year. I think, we're going to continue to develop staff capacity, training effectively to use the sensory rooms every year so that everybody's kind of on the same page how to use the rooms. OTs our background is in neuroscience and kind of understanding the deeper aspects of sensory processing. So certainly using our large staff of OTs to use our expertise to consult and make these rooms successful and tweak what's working and, areas that we could improve. And then it's a great opportunity for system-wide data. Right now, the data is just being collected building to building, but it'd be neat long-term to look at the benefits of these rooms overall. So thank you for supporting this. We are very excited and happy that it's here in our district, and I think it's a great benefit for all the students. So thank you.
So bringing it back around, initially I was thinking like, MLSS, oh, that falls under SEL, but it does, and it can contribute to graduation rate. It can contribute to kids feeling safe and people feeling. So essentially all of the areas that we've brought to you this evening contribute to all the areas of the KPIs that we have determined are the areas that we need to continue moving forward and making improvement within our area. So with that, I am going to return it to President Burns for questions.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, so board, is that a hand going up already? All right, go for it. Go for it.
I have a couple regarding the sensory rooms. 2 questions right off the bat. I guess for timing of breaks, mentioned that sometimes staff might not be available. So how do we figure that out if somebody's really in need of a break and there's not the staff available? And then the follow-up to that is I think the proactive scheduling of that is great too, but kind of the same thing, right? Like what happens if somebody absolutely needs that break and that room's already taken? Like how do we accommodate or figure those things out?
Great questions. I'll answer them as best I can. I did bring another OT with me. Not in all the buildings. So.
Come on up here and
Can you make sure that when you're talking the mic's on? Thank you. No, you're good.
I can answer the staffing, of course, is essential. I can answer to the scheduled breaks because in Irving, our rooms are getting high use. We probably have in our room that you saw the picture of, we have at least probably 10 visits a day at the most. I'd say between 8 and 10. We're still taking data on those visits. Staff is saying why they're there. When there has been schedule conflicts, sometimes they're able to talk to the people because they can see who's visiting. Our counselors actually opened up a second sensory room because of the demand in our building specifically and how well it's going on the other end of the building for the older kids. So that was actually, that's a thing in process right now. But yeah, staffing, I happen to work at a school that has a lot of availability of staff. I think you could probably speak to. It's a challenge. And I think, it's our first year, so we're trying to figure it out and work with principals and teachers and figure out like, how can we bridge this? I think the training is a big part of it, is like getting everybody to understand these rooms are not, here's what they're not for and here's what they are for, and making sure everybody's on the same page.
Yeah, and I feel like we've tried this in the past, and staffing was an issue, and the room never got used. and then it ended up collapsing. And then this was, I don't know, like 5 years ago or something. So now that they're back in place, it's nice. We've had some difficulty at the beginning of the year finding how to use it for the whole school. But I feel like now we've gotten into a groove where, like you said, preemptive breaks have been very helpful. Mitchell does a lot of preemptive breaks, and they haven't needed it for reactive purposes. Hoover is my other school that I work at, and there's enough EA support to utilize the room. And the room we have at Hoover is large. And so generally there's one student in there, but there is room enough for two if they need it. So, yeah, it has been a great addition for sure.
Thank you.
All right. Ms. Deal, you had a question.
I had a question about the registered behavior technicians.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking at the slide again. And so I guess when I'm curious, so if they're completing 40 hours self-paced online training, are they then also getting other type of training at the same time? I guess my concern is that I've done type of work like this. And so I guess I'm trying to figure out here, like if they're just doing online training, how are we making sure that that's transferring over to actual implementing it, right? Because it's really easy to take a course and be like, oh yeah, I understand why these kids are reacting this way, trauma, whatever. But then also again, I'm trying to figure, like, if you could just explain this process, like, are you getting hired? And then you're like, okay, you need to complete level 1 and 2 because it's what you're hired at. And when you're done with that and you pass the test, then we're going to do it. Or are we exposing them already to the environment? And then how are we exposing people to this? Because I guess, again, my concern is if they're doing online training, but they're not getting exposed to the real experience. Like the first time a kid comes at you and, you've had that CSI training or whatever. And it's like, oh my God, how do I really do this? So could you just explain the process a little bit more and how we're actually how this training is then applied and how are we then introducing the technicians to the students?
Yeah. So yeah, it's a good question that you have as far as because this is new this year. So the concern or the difficulty that we had is because it was starting new this year. And so in order for us to be able to say, okay, all EAs at this level have to have this certification. So what we ended up doing was saying, we're going to offer this, we're going to provide you the opportunity to get this training. You have this amount of time to complete it. The advantage of that is they're actually doing the work. They're taking the online training. It's like those bits at a time as they're training, they're able to work with their teacher, who's the person that's guiding them. And then especially in the cases of the level 2 EAs, the BCBA is available too, in order to provide that support and coaching in order to increase that. So for this year, we're in a space where they're essentially doing it. We've provided some professional development time on the days that they've already been designated to do that. So that's where they've been able to get some of the online hours. And then in some cases, then they're together with other EAs at that time. And so there can be some conversations and discussions that way. But the majority of the time has been outside on their own time as far as the online training. Now that's different. That's been this year. Next year, two things that we've moved forward with is that we're looking for the most part for people that are level 2 for next year should be coming in with it. So either if they were EAs that were with us that didn't have the training before, they've now taken it and they can continue on as a level 2. Anybody new coming in, if it's for a position that would be level 2, we'd be looking for somebody who's already got that. That being said, where there's going to be situations where that's not going to be the case. And then also we feel very strongly about providing this. It doesn't matter what level of EA they are. So we are increasing the days that are going to be available for professional development next year for our EAs. So that way they won't need to do it on their own time. We'll actually have PD days that are set and established in order for them to take that training and do that.
What Laura said, that's prior to the year starting. So we've actually added a couple of days for our EAs to report just a tad bit earlier than they've done in the past, because it's like a carpenter going to work without a hammer, without blueprints and all this stuff. And then we think with the lack of training that, contributed to the number of vacancies we have as the year goes by. And so we're being very proactive at the beginning of the year to train them and to make sure they have the tools they need to be successful on day one. So that's the effort.
And again, for that level 2, to get to that next level, they're working closely with, and you're familiar with the BCBA, who's really providing that, like, now, how do I put this into play? How do, that person's really connecting in order to see, like, did they learn what they needed to learn, and are they putting it in action?
So it sounds like so am I hearing correctly that most of the people who are taking the courses are already EAs they're here. We haven't hired the new people we're going to hire in. We're going to say, you already have to have this.
It's primarily people who've already been
here.
EAs
Okay.
with us.
That makes a lot more sense too. Okay.
Yeah,
Thanks.
because it was new. They were already with us, and to be like, well, now you have to have this certification. We needed to provide that for them.
Okay. Other questions from the board? Yes, Ms. Carr.
Okay, I want to go back to MLSS.
Sure.
And the first slide and talking about, the tiered. Okay, so PBIS. Let's just say, PBIS has been around for a while. And let's just say that I am a principal and I say to you, Laura, you know what? We are having such a great success with zones of regulation. We're really doing a good job. I've got some great data. We're gonna stick with this. What would you say to that? What would you respond to?
So, and if you want to kind of put your piece in there too, I guess one thing that people need to understand about, like, because there was also a question as far as like PBIS versus restorative practices.
Yep.
The thing about it is each of these areas that we do. So for example, restorative practices is about building community. It's about making those connections. It's about if somebody, if a student does something that kind of breaks that, how do you repair that? All very important aspects of what we need to have in there. But what that doesn't provide is, in our district or in our building, in my classroom, what are the expectations? What do I want every child, universal level, to this is what needs to happen when you're in this classroom. Here's what we're going to do to remind you of that. Here's what we're going to do to walk you through. How do you actually do that? How do you teach those skills in order to be capable of doing that? So PBIS is really that base of, like, what is it that's being expected of students, and what is the support we're providing to them in order to help them be successful in doing that at that universal level. Now, if we look at zones of regulation, this would be now these are some more skills that you could learn in order to help you be able to do those, do the expectations and those types of things. So it's not zones of regulation isn't exactly like the wide system to take a look at. It's a method of being able to get there, is the way I see it.
So it'd be, so I'm looking at it as, like, we do second step. So, like, we're actually teaching the kids some skills, right? So it'd be more like that. I get that. But what I'm saying is it a hope or an expectation that all schools are doing PBIS?
Expectation. It's going to be an expectation. I mean, it's going to be a piece that we're going to be saying, like, these are the kind of I shouldn't say kind of, these are the things that we're expecting that should be consistent across our district. And exactly what you just spoke to is some of the difficulty where it's like, this building does it this way, and this one does it this way, and this one does it this way, which I understand some autonomy in the sense of, who you have in your needs. However, in a system like we have with this, it's a matter of, we have kids who switch buildings on a regular basis. And now it's like they were used to this one, and now it's this one, and over here it's this one.
We have
Mhm.
staff who work in multiple buildings and are expected to be
Mhm.
supporting this and doing this. And if it's this way at this one and this way at this one and this way at this one, that can, so we really need to get honed in on what is it that should be happening across. And also the community and parents should be feeling like if my child goes to this school, I get the same thing as this school as this school. It shouldn't be different expectations.
And to speak to resources that we have had in place a long time, such as zones of regulation or calm corners,
Mhm.
mindfulness breaks, those are all things that we've had conversations of what are district provided resources that already exist and how are they used and how are we building them in to tier one universal expectations.
Mhm.
So your preparation at the beginning of the school year, school-wide expectations, classroom expectations, that's going to include conversations of your calm down corner in your classroom. That's where the zones are posted. How are the students learning about the zones? How are we reviewing that with them? So it's taking those things that have already existed that we've seen success from and incorporating them into the PBIS framework.
Okay. That's clear. I was going to ask about peace corners and calming corners. Are we still doing those?
Mhm.
Okay. All right. I will just say that I think the registered behavior technicians, that to me says, ooh, we're moving forward. We're trying something new. We are going to, we're having some problems with EAs and keeping EAs and we talk a lot about it. This to me says, and now we're going to do something about it. We're going to train them. We're going to give them the skills that they need. And I've been waiting for that for so long. I love to see that. And I love that it sounds like they're going to be compensated in some way with that. So I thank you for your work. It sounds exciting.
Sorry, you have a question here. But before you ask, please make sure you're directing the mics towards you while you're talking. They're directional, so you gotta make sure you're talking into them.
I just have two small questions about sensory rooms. So my first question was, are the sensory rooms also in like middle schools, high schools? I just think they could be definitely beneficial to middle schoolers. So I was just wondering if they're there. And then me being me, I'm just wondering, like, with all these students using sensory rooms, mindfulness corners, like, what does cleaning look like for that? Like, is that, I'm just wondering if, I'm just wondering, like, if there's special people who are expected to do that, or if that's like a janitor thing. I'm just curious.
Well, I can speak to Central for sure, has a sensory corner or sensory room. It's not terribly large, but it's there. I believe Frank Lloyd Wright does as well. I think all of them do. But I can only speak to the ones I've actually been at. As far as cleaning goes, it's a team effort. I don't know. Sometimes, they're left trashed and, we really encourage people to, if a student is in there and does, destroy it to some degree, we encourage them to then, when the student is calm, to come back and, fix it. Otherwise, we kind of go in there and reset it up so that it can be used appropriately.
And I think that's a great question. And it's been a challenge because there's not one single person owning the room. It's kind of a building use room. So I know at my school, we've really been, making some extra reach outs to everyone using it. Hey, and keeping data and knowing who's in the room every day has been actually pretty helpful. So you can kind of see who's actually in it. And I would say throughout the year, it seems like self-responsibility has increased. It has taken some of the OTs. We may not always be the favorite email to read because, like I sent a picture of the room and it was pretty messed up. And I said, would this make you feel calm walking into it? Please respect everybody that's needs to benefit from this room and make it the way it, it was when you left. So that has improved. I think we're kind of working through it with principals and other staff, but it's a great question because that was a very practical challenge that we were seeing and will continue. Work in progress. Yes.
I love your curiosity.
Okay, I also have a couple of questions. The first one that I have is in looking at the tier 2 targeted supports, the check-ins and checkouts, which is phenomenal. I think there are probably plenty of students, probably teachers that could even use that to some degree. What do we do in the summer months for students that really need this? Because now, of course, my child is much older now, so I'm glad to see this come in. Wish it would have been there, quite a few years ago. But I'm just thinking about in general, students can lose a lot in those 3 months that they're off. So do we do anything in the summertime to bridge that gap with those kids that kind of, I'm sure, come to rely on those check-ins and checkouts? And then even more importantly, bridging that gap from elementary to middle and middle to high school. What do we offer for that? That was my first one. So I don't know if you guys want to answer. You want me to just read them all off? You tell me. Then the other one was too, with the testing, I think it was 2nd to 10th grade for the My Sabers. I'm just curious as to why only 10th grade? Why don't we go 11th and 12th? I'm just curious.
That's as far as the program goes.
Oh, okay. Okay. I didn't know. All right. Well, I mean, that makes sense. And then,
If it went further, we would have done.
okay. Okay. I just didn't know if that was something that we decided or that was in the program or not. And then my last question was coming back to sensory rooms also. And I know we kind of chuckled about it with teachers being able to utilize that, but have we given any thought to obviously it maybe wouldn't require all the different tools and things, but I mean, I have a lot of friends that are teachers and not only our district, but a lot of other ones that in their day sometimes too, just need to step away for a minute. Is that so crazy to think that it might actually be beneficial to our teachers and the retention of our teachers to think about that?
I'll let you guys address it if it's being used that way in the schools.
I don't think it currently is, but I think it's a great suggestion for sure. If the room is available and teachers need a break, they're more than welcome.
Please use the microphone. Thank you.
Sorry.
Is it on?
Can you use the other one? And Brandon might have that one muted.
Yeah, like I was saying, it's not currently used for teachers, but I do think it would be great if they start to utilize it as well if the room is available.
I think it's a great idea, both for the teachers to have that opportunity to do that. And I'm very much a proponent of students will see teachers using and doing that. And I think it's important for them to be able to kind of role model that. So I think that would be a great idea.
And that was something at our school. I actually did recommend everybody go down in the hall and visit the room, and heard a lot of comments like, wow, I could really use this. And I said,
Right.
it's for everybody. So I do know, I don't know how intentional they have been. It's very hard to
Sure.
find a few minutes in a day to take care of yourself. But that's something that in the beginning of the year, staff training,
Okay.
I think we could emphasize even more because
I was just gonna maybe letting them know, it's
It
okay
feels
if
great.
you want to
Yeah,
use it, kind
absolutely.
of start the trend or something, and just to know that like you say, anyone can.
Sure.
It doesn't matter. So it has purpose.
Yeah.
I definitely hear teachers talking to students about oh, I'm feeling kind of in the blue zone today, acknowledging it's okay. You don't have to be green all the time, and so it would be kind of cool if teachers would show them oh, I had to use the sensory room today too, because I was feeling a little bit dysregulated.
So to go back to your question in regards to the check in, check out and say groups and things like that, as far as over the summer, to some extent, so that's tier 2, that's student services providing that. When those kinds of interventions and things are provided, being that we do have a school year start and end, and there is that middle piece. And even within the school year, the understanding is the point of those systems are not to, this is what you're going to need now and forever. It's really very much when we go into interventions with students, there is a plan of here's the start, here's how long we're looking to likely do this, the data we're collecting to see, does it need a little longer? Are we good even sooner, a little shorter? But whenever you do interventions, and it's very much like doing counseling and therapy too, that the point of it is to get them into a solid space and then prepare them for now you're going to be able to do this on your own. Very much like what somebody had mentioned with the sensory rooms, the point of it so that the kids understand is not now this is something I'm for now and forever going to depend on. It's going to be at some point, I'm not going to need this anymore. And yeah, go ahead.
So while we don't have any official like summer programs that promote that, I will say a big component of check and check out is communication with the family. So a component that we do at our school, I'm thinking of one specific friend, where one of his skills is he can earn points for attempting a calm down strategy that we've been teaching him. And so he has a visual that reminds him like what those strategies are and how they work. And we shared that same visual sent it home and it just adapted it for home a little bit. So he's practicing that same regulation strategy at home. Some of our students use an occupational therapy resource of like an ABC movement wall in the hallways. We send copies of that home too, just to like reinforce like these are things that they practice and try and that's been helping them. They can use it at home too. Or we have kids who make their own peace corners at home. And so really communicating with the families of this is what we're working with them on and this is how they're doing and this is how you can replicate that at home.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Well, and just to make sure that we had the other piece that you said, when are they transitioning to another school, right? The different age levels. Taking a look at that, we have our student services staff, as we start coming to the end of the year, do a pretty good number of getting together with, if it's fifth going to sixth or eighth going to ninth, that they connect and they make sure that the receiving end is aware of like, this is a student who, you know, they weren't really ready to be finished with that at the end of the year, going to need to make sure that we bridge that gap and they continue starting into that next year. And that's whether it's for check in, check out and SAG groups, or sometimes if it is some counseling or those types of services that are being provided, making sure if they were maybe seeing a therapist through PHG, what's going to be that bridge to do that over the piece. So our student services staff connect with each other at the different levels. We have monthly meetings where we have the high school counselors there, but then the intermediate counselors will come in at the quarter, and then that's where they have those opportunities to talk with each other, to connect and make that connection for the students.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Other questions? Anyone? Mr. Lee? Oh, and by the way, that one's unmuted now by our tech, so it'll work now.
There we go. That was a good call.
Thank you. So I had just a few questions. First, so regarding the MLSS, all the things you said about it makes complete logical sense to me. I've been on the board for 9 years. I've heard all of these words before. So my question, I guess, is, what were we doing before? And why were we not implementing the process that was outlined so nicely tonight before?
I think that's a very good question. I think if we take a look at, there was a period of time, and a number of you know, when I was in that space where it was like PBIS, restorative practices, right? Those areas. It was very siloed at that point. We were very heavy into what is PBIS? How do you to the T do this, do that component? And we had coaches who were supporting that and making sure that we were following it with fidelity. Then we had restorative practices. We had trainers from outside who trained a whole bunch of the staff, and then we had trained the trainers and those types of pieces. I think that there was, at that point, it was people were getting solid in their knowledge and understanding of these different components of it, but there wasn't really that overall, like overarching, how do we put this all together and do it in a way that is actually going to be not only cohesive, but manageable. Like for us to full on do the PBIS, every component of it, to full on do it's along with everything that has to be done with academic achievement. And it's, as you heard, even from the MLSS coming forward with what we're doing, there are going to be expectations for teachers. There are going to be expectations for student services staff. There are going to be expectations for administrators. And I think it's at a point where it's like we've figured out and learned and understood what are those key takeaways from those things that are the have-tos that we have to put into this system without it necessarily being every single tiny component of it that can actually, I think, overwhelm a system if you get too many of those into the space.
Yeah, just to backdoor that, I think the major thing for us in year 1 and 2 for me was to focus on sort of the academic side of the house. And as we have improved a lot with the academic side, with building systems and creating sort of this clear message throughout the district and throughout our buildings, now we're trying to level it up a little bit on the other side of the house with the behavior side. And so it's just been a process. It's a lot to do at one time. So when we look at the system and try to see with EMLSS in particular, you have the behavior side and the academic side. Right now, we're trying to level off. Academic side is a little bit more advanced because of the work that we've been doing with it. And so now we're just trying to catch back up with that. So it's just been a lot of, but as you have new people coming in, and we have a lot of people coming in over the years that were not trained initially under PBIS. So that's a whole nother thing. When you have new people coming in, you have to update your trainings. You just can't assume people know because people have been here. There are a lot of people who we have to train over the summer and in August, and that's going to be part of the PD is to do a refresh and not assuming that everybody knows. We're actually going to train you on the system. So that's just the work that we've dedicated to do for the next couple of months.
And I think, Noah, the methodology that the academic piece was like the intensity of what came in as far as interventions and how to set up this system, and actually us working with SAIL and, through ASA and to get that put into place, I think has provided for us a solid model of now how do we do it that way for behavior as well.
I think for me, I just want to see all the work that is being done to bear fruit and not have this kind of back and forth of different strategies.
5 years
that
from
we're
now, is it
utilizing,
gonna,
like we're doing this now. What's 3 years from now look like? What does 5 years from now look like? And these KPIs that you have here, you feel are going to be good for actually providing data to say that what we are implementing is working.
Right.
As far as achieving these changes that we have laid out here.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that will be good to know. The other thing that I think is important to keep track of is how many people are getting this training and how many people are lost as people move on to other places.
Oh,
that was the other,
like the annual rollover.
So having that
as new people come in,
be consistent is important to ensure that you're actually able to do it. And I think that was a lot we heard. People will be train the trainer and the trainer's gone.
Right.
And so then now who's training? So I think that was always another problem that we ran into with these sorts of strategies. So this sort of stuff is obviously very critical. I don't think anyone says not. And so that's why for me, it's really important that it works at the end of the day, because it all equals up to achievement. And if you're not able to appropriately do this, or if one building is really good at doing it and other buildings are not, then that's where we have the inequities in our, we can see in our district. So if we are able to actually do it consistently across the district and ensure those trainings are being provided to everyone every year, I think then we have a higher probability of success in seeing these metrics change for the better. So very good. And also something I hear from staff as well, that having consistent behavioral practices that everyone is bought into and everyone knows about, I think also helps with a retention piece as well for staff, because they don't feel like in certain situations they're not getting as much support as they need, or helpless in certain situations because of what's happening in their classrooms. So,
and I think the big lift is that consistency piece and bringing in fidelity and accountability. And I think the new district administration that's been built up over the past few years, they really value that piece, and they set us up for success to be able to actually move forward with PD we're getting by building in expectations for how it's used, when do you need to attempt blank by, this is who's going to come check. Being in the district 11 years now, when I was on year 1, 2, 3, that didn't really exist at our admin level. So I really appreciate that we have a district admin right now that values like that piece, that component of, are we actually doing it? Are we actually doing it well? And if you're not, here's how we're going to support you to do it well. So I think that will be a key component that helps make this successful across our whole district.
Well, that's good to hear. I'm glad to hear that about the administration for sure. Are we doing any sort of data gathering around the staff, like after they get this training to see, yes, I know there was some initial talk about, yes, I'm seeing things better, like with the calming rooms and things like that. But say I've got this training, I can definitely see that it's helping in my classroom to be able to do it so that we can to deal with whatever's happening in my classroom. Both teachers and EAs to be able to see if, so beyond these KPIs, but from a staff kind of workplace, having success at their workplace, feeling like they can work in their workplace with success, that sort of aspect of it, because I'm trying to look at other things that are beyond financial, because we're hopefully working on that. So then it becomes to, I like to work at my job because I feel like I can do my job well. And so I think that in part, that success can really deal with the behavioral issues that many have to deal with. So are we going to be surveying or something like that to try and address, to gather that information?
I think that's really great feedback and something we can make sure we build in, because we do staff feedback surveys for Second Step. We do staff feedback surveys for many things. And I think it'll be important to include that for this as well. Especially just like we do checks for understanding with students, we want to do checks for understanding with our staff of, we just learned about behavior specific praise. Where are you at with it? So absolutely building that into this framework too.
And it also can help figure out buy-in as well, maybe for staff,
Oh,
because
yeah.
they're doing this. If they don't think it's working, then they're probably not going to really want to put in the effort to learn how to do it because, yeah, it didn't work for me.
Yeah, I think that survey is important for us to know where the gaps still exist, right? So, with long gone are the days where we just train people and just assume everybody's going to just do it. Like we have to do the follow up and then check back at some point to say, okay, how successful have we been with our training? How do you feel comfortable about this? What else do you need to be successful? So I think that's a very important component of it. And I think surveying is a great tool to measure that. So I agree with that. Yeah.
And again, I think we have a great exemplar as far as like what's happening with the academic piece of like teachers seeing other teachers doing it. We'll be able to follow that very similar model of those connections for people to, if they're feeling unsure, to see it in action from somebody who is being successful with it.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I had on the MLSS. I have two more questions on two separate different things. One is on the My Sabers. I think I've asked this before. Panorama to My Sabers. Do we have a crosswalk?
It didn't.
So we have no way. So basically, My Sabers we're using for 1, 2, how many
This
years?
is our first year with My Saver.
First year. So we basically have no baseline. This is our baseline.
This is our baseline.
Okay.
All right. We do have plans to make sure we're downloading and saving this data so that it doesn't get lost in the future. Yep. We took that feedback from last year.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's good to hear. The last one is about the training for the EAs. I'm happy to hear it. I think that retention with EAs has obviously been something that has been an issue for our district for a number of years now, for a number of different reasons, but this is one of them. And I think that my question is, what are we doing to retain the EAs that get this training, right? So if this is what we're going to require moving forward for our EAs, how are we keeping the ones that we train? That's always the question I have. We spend the time and effort to train someone and then they go somewhere else.
Sure.
So it's not very helpful for us and we need to now fill that spot with someone who's trained. So what are we doing?
Yeah, well, part of having the levels and having these different requirements, as I think Jane or somebody had asked about the compensation. So part of it was that we've increased what the hourly compensation rate is and have it more consistent with, so that we're just like we are with teachers now, as far as like average for the area of what other districts are providing. And so by having those rates, and they're dependent on, it makes sense that it's like we're expecting a different level from you in order to be able to get this level. So that I think that that's a component of it, because obviously for EAs, the pay is a a big factor
Mhm.
in stay or go. And then the other piece that we'll be monitoring is, the many of the EAs, from what I understand in the past, when they would talk with HR of like, why are you leaving? There was that component of I didn't receive enough training or I didn't feel adequately prepared for the job. So we'll be keeping an eye on, like, we are now providing that support, we're providing that training. If they were saying that was a piece of why I'm leaving, then we should have more people stay because we are providing additional training, both through what it is we're providing as well as the number of days that we're providing it. Like, we're increasing the whole package for them, so that training and then pay shouldn't be the issues of why I'm leaving. So there could be other reasons, but that should reduce the numbers. So we'll be watching for that.
And we can track that then by looking
Yeah,
at the,
for sure.
who was trained, who was not trained.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
good,
Because that's all documented.
very good, very important. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Any other questions, comments, concerns? No? Mr. Becker, sure.
I had a similar question on the My Saber, so thank you on that. That was a good call. I do appreciate just overall, as Dr. Robinson said, I was catching on right away to the systems approach, and it just seems in the same vein as a lot of the other things you're doing. So I appreciate that. And on behalf of, as a former first year teacher who felt overwhelmed and underprepared. So I think it's really great that we're keeping that in mind and trying to prepare people for success. So I appreciate the effort.
All right. Anyone else? All right. I do want to thank you guys for all this work. I do want to also bring it back to that excitement of you're bringing this to us because you've seen success and you want to keep expanding that. So I think that that's fabulous. And I look forward to seeing how this continues to grow over the next couple of years with implementing this and keeping that system in place. So thank you so much for your time.
Yeah. If you want to come take a look at the sensory rooms.
All right.
As long as it's available. That's right.
Schedule me for a preemptive. But thank you so much, and I appreciate your time. It was a lovely presentation. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. With that, no, those were hidden. Those were hidden. All right. There isn't anything else, right? Okay. All right. So at this time, that'll move us on to item 13. So the board will convene into executive session in accordance with Wisconsin Statute 19.85, Parent 1, Parent C, and Parent G to complete a performance evaluation and rating of the superintendent using a consensus process and to consider compensation or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the government body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. Yeah, so I would look for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
So moved and seconded to do.
Move into executive session.
Thank you. All right. We have a motion and a second. Is there any question on that? We have to then call the roll. Yep.
Mr. Verbos,
Present.
Ms. Jill?
Yes.
Mr. Lee?
Yeah.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Ms. Kaiser?
Yes.
Ms. Carr?
Yes.
Ms. Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Ms. Deal, I want to ensure I heard you.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And President Burns.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. So then at this time, then, if there is no objection, we will recess for 5 minutes while the boardroom is set up for closed session. Seeing no objection, we will recess for 5 minutes.